Joining us now is Florida Congressman Byron Donalds. He represents the 19th District in Florida. He's on several committees on oversight, accountability, financial services, to name a few. And he joins us now. Welcome back, Congressman Byron Donalds. How are you?
Doing good, Laura. How are you? Good morning.
I'm good, thank you. I'm sure it's a little bit more of a relaxing week, knowing that the CR has been passed and the can has been kicked down the road. That is true, but not until, I guess, January or February to hopefully tackle and complete the issues that are before everyone. But I know one issue you have been very outspoken on that has not been even close to being solved is the immigration crisis in this country and at the border. There was a hearing just last week with Mayorkas, and he remains on the hot seat. What's your take?
He should be on the hot seat. He's done a terrible job. I mean, look, first of all, I know we have disagreements in the country when it comes to the amount of immigrants that come into the United States. That's been a longstanding political disagreement. But what we have right now is a complete reversal of the asylum process. The asylum process, as designed by law, by Congress, was never intended to allow for the way Joe Biden and Alejandro Mayorkas have been using the asylum process. It's a complete bastardization through and through. Congress never contemplated where you would have a situation where you would have 250,000 entrants a month through the southern border using asylum. That was never thought through. And so what we have is a situation where our major cities are all overrun with migrant populations that they cannot manage. If it's an issue in New York and Chicago, imagine what it is on the southern borders of Texas and Arizona, where you have people who are coming in that the cities can't even accommodate, let alone assimilate. So I don't really view this as an immigration issue. This is a border security issue. This is an asylum issue. And so that's why I go back to the original premise. Congress never contemplated asylum becoming a catch-all for immigration. But that's what's happened under the Biden administration. And I believe that it is a violation of the law because Congress never even thought that it would be used this way.
I had a conversation with your colleague, Congresswoman Kat Cammack, just the other day about this very issue, and she was particularly concerned about what she viewed as the lack of transparency or truthfulness on the behalf of Secretary Mayorkas. I've heard that frequently. Of course, his response would be in the administrations that they have been totally transparent and that this is something that is not a one administration issue and they're doing the best they can. She was unconvinced. I suspect you are as well, particularly on the area of transparency and candor.
No, absolutely. Listen, he goes to these committee hearings. He gives the same talking points. First of all, people need to understand a lot of these cabinet secretaries, the reason they become cabinet secretaries is because they know how to do the congressional two-step in these hearings where they get through the hearings but never really give anything away to Congress, which makes the administration look bad. A lot of the decisions are made by the deputy secretaries and the undersecretaries in these agencies. And so at the end of the day, what we got to understand is the administration from the beginning has not been transparent. I remember back the first couple of months of the Biden administration where the press started asking serious questions. And they said, hey, listen, can we go down there and take a look at these facilities and see what's going on? Because we're getting footage of kids in cages and the border detention facilities are being overwhelmed. And I remember Joe Biden said very clearly, we'll be transparent when we're ready. So give us a chance to get ready and then we'll be fully transparent. And that never happened. The Biden administration never opened up any of these facilities to the press. They never really opened them up to members of Congress. We had to go and basically walk our way onto military installations to view these facilities. I had to do that at Fort Bliss, where I was down in Texas, and we heard that they had opened up a migrant facility for teenagers on Fort Bliss's base, on the campus of Fort Bliss. So before I left El Paso, I said, you know what? I'm going to Fort Bliss. I had to walk my way on as a member of Congress. They didn't want me there, but because I'm a member, they couldn't deny me access. So I go on there, and I see these massive tent facilities where they're holding 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 migrants in a transition period, frankly, for them to be moved through the United States. That was 2 years ago, Laura, and it's still been going on this entire time. The administration has lost reportedly 90,000 children, just lost them in the United States, unaccounted for. We don't know where they are. So this is what the issues are with no transparency, whether it's to Congress or to the American people through the press.
Well, let me ask you, if I know Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, a congresswoman, as you know, out of Georgia, has said that after Thanksgiving she intends to move for the impeachment of Mayorkas. I do wonder, given the concern overall about the administration's handling of it, do you think that the removal of or the targeting of Mayorkas would solve the issue, or is this a fundamental issue of the Biden-Harris administration?
Well, two things. One, it's a fundamental issue of the Biden-Harris administration. These decisions are coming from the White House. Alejandro Mayorkas is just following through. Now, that being said, he should go. The man has lied to the Senate. He's lied to the House. He keeps talking about how the border is secure. Anybody with two eyes and that can look at a data table can understand that is not the case. We've talked to border agents who are actually doing the job. They're like, no, he's lying to you. And the last piece is that the drug cartels have operational control over the southern border. The reason why is because the drug cartels, for people listening, here's how I always describe it, Laura. For people who remember the Houston Oilers under Warren Moon, they're running the run and shoot offense. That's what the drug cartels are doing. They're spreading out our border agents. They're sending so many migrants to keep them occupied. And when there's gaps between the border agents because they're having to take in and process people coming across the southern border as opposed to returning them back to Mexico or turning them around to go back, what happens is you have drug runners with packs of fentanyl, which is killing 100,000 Americans. Alejandro Mayorkas knows all of this. He's not been truthful to Congress. So that's why he should be impeached. But let's be very clear. This is an issue of the Biden-Harris administration because they are the ones that have changed the protocols at the southern border. Joe Biden could reverse course today if he wants to, but he chooses not to because this is where their administration is. And frankly, this is where most of the Democrat Party is when it comes to border security in the United States.
Well, first of all, Congressman, I'm from Minnesota. So the next time you mention Warren Moon, you better say the Minnesota Vikings, because that's where he was before the Houston Oilers. That's number one, full stop. Number two, look, there's a new poll out from NBC News that says the majority of voters support the U.S. providing more funding and military aid to foreign countries, but a larger share back border security funding in particular. So say you have the American public behind you on what you've just said. What are Republicans intending to do about it? What would Republicans do differently about it?
Well, the number one thing is you secure the border. That comes first and foremost. I think that it's not a money issue.
But what does that mean, just to be specific? What does that mean specifically?
Oh, specifically, it's a couple of things. Number one, you reinstate the Remain in Mexico policy. Number two, like I talked about at the beginning, you do not allow for asylum applications at an illegal point of entry, which is most of our southern border. Number three, if people want to claim asylum, they claim it at the U.S. Embassy in their country or the next nearest country. What most people are doing is that they're taking a journey of several thousand miles through multiple countries to come to our southern border. You got to stop all of that. Number four, the asylum hearings, people, and this is the one that's not popular. If you're here for a legitimate asylum hearing, you might have to be held. You can't just be dispersed through the United States and wait 7 years for the actual hearing. And by the way, only 5% of the people go back for the actual asylum hearing. Once they get in, they're gone and they don't come back. All that has to be changed. I think that if you can do that, you dramatically slow the amount of people coming through the southern border because nobody's going to pay the drug cartels $10,000 to $15,000 if they're being held by the United States or turned around by the United States. It diminishes the capacity of the drug cartels to have control over our border. So those are some of the large elements. Now, I think when you mentioned the poll about how Americans do want us to be supportive of Israel, we do have Americans who want to be supportive of Ukraine. But the number one overarching issue for a lot of Americans is if we cannot take care of our business at home, if we can't secure the country and the border here at home, then how do we have funds to be involved in other countries? That's where a lot of Americans are. And I think that if America took care of its business and didn't play politics with some of these issues, then when it comes to support for Israel and Ukraine, you would have more cohesive political support of Americans for those conflicts. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can't be worried about the kids down the street if your kids are wilding and out of control. You just can't do it. You got to take care of your business first. You do that, then the country will be far more sympathetic and supportive of those other conflicts.
But walking and chewing gum at the same time sometimes is required when obviously what happens in Ukraine or Israel and Hamas war are things that are not part of the planned appropriations or conversation topics. But when they come up, is it possible to handle both simultaneously, including what's going on at the border?
Yeah, absolutely. It's possible to do both. But this is where leadership comes into play. And I mean, look, you mentioned polling. This is why Joe Biden's polling numbers are in the toilet. Because he's not leading. He's not walking and chewing gum at the same time. What has happened, and I've called him the master of disaster, because everything that's going on in the country or internationally is all at the hands of Joe Biden. We've talked a lot about border policy, but let's not lose sight of foreign policy. Under foreign policy, the second we left Afghanistan in that debacle, a couple of things occurred. Vladimir Putin started amassing troops on the Ukrainian border. He amassed troops for 6 months. Joe Biden didn't do anything. It only wasn't until Vladimir Zelensky asked for bullets and not a ride on a G5 to America that Joe Biden reversed course and now wants to support Ukraine in its battle against Russia. Those are the facts. Number two, the administration was giving money to the Iranians, turning off the sanctions, allowing the Iranian government to get stronger economically. What does Iran do? They take that money to provide more resources to Hezbollah and Hamas. Hamas attacks in southern Israel. That's crisis number two. Crisis number three, we do have Taiwan that's sitting out there. China is saber rattling right now. Does this administration look strong on the world stage to deal with a China who's getting more aggressive with Taiwan? No, it does not. You can handle all these things at the same time. That's the job of the president, is to handle them all at the same time. But this man is not a leader, and this man has been wrong on multiple occasions. And quite frankly, he's seen better days. We all know that as well. So it is time for a change at the top. We got to get serious people in to this White House and into the administration who are going to do the job that needs to be done for America.
So I'm guessing you did not wish the president a happy birthday yesterday, Congressman.
Oh, shoot, I didn't even know. Shout out to him. Happy birthday, But do your job. Like, hey, man, do your job. That's all. Listen, Laura, I'm a results-oriented person. I don't get caught up in drama and, so-and-so said this and so-and-so said that, or, they made me feel good with their speech. I'm results-oriented. Are you doing the job? Can I see the metrics? Because at the end of the day, my mom always used to say, Byron, save the drama for your mama. What are you doing? Like, what are you actually doing? And that's the thing that matters to me. That's the thing that matters to most Americans.
Well, you might be in the wrong profession these days because there's a lot of drama happening on Capitol Hill, but maybe the new year after Thanksgiving and a turkey dinner will solve at least part of that conversation. Listen, thank you for joining us this morning. I know that you've got a lot on your plate. Hopefully you'll have a lot more on your plate physically on Thursday for Thanksgiving. Hope you have a happy one with you and your family, and come back and we'll discuss more, because after Thanksgiving, I guess it's going to hit the ground running, especially with a new impeachment push from Mayorkas. Thank you for joining us.
Listen, thanks, Laura. Anytime. And happy Thanksgiving to you and your family as well.
Thank you. We'll be right back, everyone, after a quick break right here on SiriusXM POTUS. That was Congressman Byron Donalds.